Hey family, welcome back to the CamPaige Experience Strong Woman series. I am here with my beautiful sister Jah'Sosha Smith.
Hey.
We call her Sasha. And we are here just talking about the effects of abuse. And just continuing on our talks about abuse. We talked about physical abuse, we talked about sexual abuse, and now we're just continuing on to talk about the effects that it has on you. And Sasha is very familiar with abuse. She has experienced all types of abuse. And Sasha, can you just share with us, you have dealt with physical abuse, you've dealt with sexual abuse, mental, emotional abuse. I can imagine. I'm sure we could share all day.
Yeah.
But can you just share with us your first encounter, your first sexual encounter, your first encounter with sexual abuse?
So the first time that I was abused was sexually. I was 11 years old and I had been staying with my aunt. My mom was a truck driver. And we had a friend of the family that was sleeping over, and I woke up to him touching me. He was a teenager, which I'm sure, he was curious. And we were all sleeping in the living room, and he touched me. I woke up to, feeling him in my panties. And I woke up and I told him, to stop. And it's kind of that thing where sometimes when something happens to you, you feel like, you can handle it.
Yes.
And I don't know if I completely went back to sleep or if I drifted back to sleep or whatever else the case may be. And he did stop. But when I woke up again, he was touching my cousin. And I told him, if you don't stop now, I'm going to go tell my aunt. So I actually went and told my aunt, and his mom had to come pick him up. And then the next day, my aunt took us to the counselor to express and go over what happened so that we understood, what course of action. So one, so that we can heal, and then decide what course of action was going to happen, going forward. And this was somebody that we knew. We went to school with him. We were in the same church. So we went to church with him and his family. And we didn't really see him much after that. He had to stay a certain amount of distance from us. And, my aunt did everything that she could to make sure that we were taken care of, like mentally and emotionally at the time. I was younger. And when you're younger, you can kind of bounce back from things a lot faster. So honestly, I don't think it really resonated in my mind what was going on or what happened probably until I got a lot older.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, we definitely have to shine light on what your aunt did, because I think a lot of times, and we know especially in the past, a lot of times we just kind of swept it under the rug.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about it. It's hard for us to even think about, I need a counselor, because we think of it in a negative way opposed to it helping us to heal.
Yeah.
And so the fact that it was like instantly, this is what I have to do to make sure they're okay mentally and emotionally because this happened. And dealing with that is so big, and I'm sure that impacted your life, impacted your relationship with your aunt. It allowed you to trust her, even if you didn't even understand how much that situation was impacting your life because you were so young.
Yeah, she's still one of my favorite aunts, my Aunt KK. I love the fact that she was open-minded, It wasn't like the status quo. A lot of times in our culture, like you said, we sweep things under the rug, or, we're taught to pretty much suck it up and just keep moving. But she felt that it was very important for us to understand, and I think that was probably the framework for me, now that I think about it, being older and saying, I need help. Being okay with saying, I need help. I need a therapist or a counselor, or getting that kind of encouragement and help.
And during this time, you were also dealing with physical abuse and continued to over time. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. So my mom was a really good mom. I believe she did the best that she could. But in the older culture, what we would consider abuse, they didn't. It was just raising your child. It was disciplining your child. It's what it was. But when you're breaking skin, and when you're bleeding, or when as parents, and I'm a parent of 2 children, one is a teenager and one is 6, so I understand. But when you don't appropriately respond to something that your child has done in disciplining them, it's very easy to kind of cross that line. So I think, you know, remembering going back, I think probably the first time that I was like harshly disciplined probably was like 8 years old. And I think I didn't come home from school like on time. My mom was very strict about like, you have to be home. But I understand she had a girl and she was a single parent. So she wanted to make sure that I was okay. And I think, if we're not careful as parents, we have to be mindful in the way in which we correct our children, because you can't beat somebody into submission.
No.
And I was that person that it really honestly only made me more bitter as I got older.
Yeah.
It made me more rebellious. And overall, it affected the way in which I see love.
Yeah.
Overall, it definitely affected the way I see love. Now that I'm older, of course, it's affected in a healthy way, the way in which I rear my children. And I'm very mindful of the way in which I correct them, and to make sure that when I am correcting them, that my outcome is to be a positive one, and watch what I am invoking in them. I never want to invoke fear in my kids. We talk about like reverencing God and having a healthy respect for. A healthy respect is one thing, but I never want my kids to fear me. I just don't believe that that's healthy.
You're absolutely right. That's awesome. So I don't think we always realize it, but abuse or just anything in our childhood can have effect on our behaviors.
Yeah.
So how do you feel that the abuse in your life, whether it be sexual abuse, physical abuse, or even the mental and emotional abuse, because I think it's important to understand that emotional and mental abuse is just the same. It's equal to being physically abused. Sometimes when people have been sexually abused or physically abused, which typically they have also been emotionally, mentally abused, but when someone has not had physical abuse or sexual abuse, but they've been abused mentally and emotionally, you don't realize that it's the same. Sometimes you can see it as less than, and it's not, because it affects you so much. There are so many people in the hospital on drugs that that trauma affects you. So how do you feel that the abuse has affected your behaviors?
I would say probably starting in my teen years, I had vices. I experimented really, really young. I think I was like 13 the first time I smoked weed, which I don't like weed, but that was like the first time I think that I like tried it. And then alcohol was my, that was my vice of choice. So I would go through these like binges pretty much, where I would kind of spiral out of control and not necessarily understanding why. Like when I look back like over my life, I'm 33, but like when I think about it, I've been sexually assaulted or harassed 4 times in my life. And one of those times was by a very close family member. And what the abuse taught me over time was that I used to tell people this all the time. And I don't feel like this anymore, but this is how it affected my behavior. If the people that are supposed to love you can't love you and treat you right, then who else is going to love you? But that I applied that to me. If the people that are supposed to love me don't love me, then how is anybody else going to love me?
Wow.
That's the way I live my life. Like my early 20s, I really thought that. And even my teen years, I thought that nobody was going to truly love me. Like I ended up in an abusive relationship at 16 years old. And being from the hood, it's like people fight, that's what they do. Like it's ride or die. Like you think about it, who's that? Like the Rough Riders, I think it was a ride or die. Even like DMX, like, people think like ride or die, that you stick around, you fight, so what? They're still there. You stay out all night, so what? They're still there. But I didn't realize how unhealthy it was for me until it happened in front of my son. I thought it was okay because I was fighting back. And as small as I am, I'm 5 foot. But I didn't care. Like I was a scrapper. I learned from an early age that violence was normal.
Wow.
I learned that violence was normal. And I took that with me through life, and I carried that with me through life. But I thank God that I had sense enough to know that when it happened in front of my son, that it's not something I ever wanted him to experience. as a parent, going back to that thing where sometimes when something happens to you, it's like, okay, I'm strong, I can deal with it. But when the potential of it happens to somebody else that you love, it's like, okay, that's where I draw the line.
Yeah.
And for me, that's where, you know, I was like, okay, I draw the line. And I do think that, you know, the abuse and, you know, alcohol, of course at 16 I wasn't drinking as much, you know, as I did in my later years to cope. But yeah, I mean, I was drinking then, you know, we're still young and we're smoking weed and we're drinking, and I think it played a factor on my decision making processes. A lot into, you know, my early 20s. I think it probably took for me to get about to 23 for me to realize, like, okay, I can't live my life like this. You know, I went through an abusive relationship where, you know, I was the one being abused, and then in turn, I ended up the very next relationship abusing the person that I was with. It was time to grow up, and it was time to get some help, and it took for me to deploy. Unfortunately, you know, after coming back from my deployment and having some really bad episodes, and I had a drill sergeant or an instructor that, you know, said you need to go to counseling because, you know, you're freaking out, you know, you can't perform your daily duties and this is not healthy for you. And I went, and I didn't even realize sitting before that woman how much trauma I had been through, because, you know, they go through your entire history. And I realized then, you know, how much I had been through. You know, it's one thing to be a survivor, but to be healed is a whole nother thing.
Yes.
Like, you know, to survive is wonderful, but I tell people I want to thrive through life, and I think that's where my healing journey began. And it took something really, really sad to happen. Like, I felt like I was losing my mind. I literally felt like I was losing my mind, but it's that thing where, you know, what the enemy meant for evil, like God meant, he turned it around for my good. I can truly say that. So yeah, it affected me. It affected me a lot. It affected me in bad ways, but once I began healing and seeing where the problem was, it affects the way, you know, in which I live my life now. Every day I want to live to be the best version of me, and then also to be able to love on other people, to bring out the best version in them.
I know you spoke about counseling, and I think it's very important. Sometimes we're nervous about counseling. I know the first time that I talked about going to counseling, I was so nervous. We're hesitant about it. We're like, oh, maybe I don't. I have my friends. I have this. But it is so important. It's important to have spiritual leaders in place, but it's also important that you have someone, and sometimes you can get the best of both worlds. You can get a spiritual leader or someone who is a follower of Christ, who also is a professional, but you do need to see someone who's gone to school for this. Yeah. I think that God puts them in place for a reason. If not, he wouldn't give us counselors. Yeah. But how would you say seeing a counselor, because you shared about counseling, so I think it's important to really shed light on counseling. How would you say it has helped you? What has counseling done for you? And maybe, I don't know, do you still see a counselor? Is it a daily process? Is it like this continues on, this healing process takes time? Yeah, for sure. Healing does take time, and I love the way, you know, our mom says, you know, like, you know, at each level, you know, the healing begins again, you know. At each level of glory, you know, you have to go through things, you know, he heals us in steps, you know, he heals us in ways. I do still see a counselor, and I have to. I don't allow my medical diagnosis to define me, but I am very aware of what they are. So I have PTSD, I have an anxiety disorder, I suffer with depression. I shouldn't say suffer, I don't suffer with depression, but I do go through depressive bouts. And so it is important for me to constantly see a counselor, because when I'm going through those times, it helps me to effectively process one, and then to put things in place so that I can be healthy in my mind. And even if it's not a depressive bout, it helps me to maintain my daily life. Like something as simple as, my counselor pointed out to me and I didn't realize, something as simple as only picking 3 priorities to do a day versus the 10 that are going on in my mind. And I'm like, oh my God, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. You know, I have to get this done, I have to get that done. And she's like, that's not healthy for your brain. What we don't realize, you know, is
sometimes, again, you get used to things, go through life and you do it and you suck it up and you deal with it because that's the way that things are, but that's not the way that things have to be. You know, going to a counselor taught me to have healthy boundaries. It taught me when I'm at my limit, don't press past my limit. You know, like I can pray to God for strength and he'll give me strength. Like I know he will, but physically I still have to take care of my body and my mind. Absolutely. And ultimately, if I keep ramming at it, running it down, I'm not going to have anything left, you know, when I get older. So, you know, a counselor helps me to be whole, along with my spiritual advisors and, you know, my support system. But a trained professional helps me to conceptualize it, to talk through it unbiasedly, and to, you know, give me those steps that I need or figure out what steps I need to be able to move forward in my day life. But especially, you know, when I'm going through those moments. I had a moment last week, and you would think, you know, the time I was assaulted by a family member, I was almost raped by a family member at 16 years old, and I had my son and my sister in the room with me, and we were all asleep. And I kind of had an episode, like, I want to say it was like last week or the week before, and I was just kind of like, I'm tired of this. Like, you know, this shouldn't have had to happen to me, you know, like, I shouldn't have to be the one that's being the mature one, you know, and blah, 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 blah. But it helped to be able to express that, you know, it helped to be able to say, you know, I'm not at my best today and not have to worry about the judgment. Yeah. Because I know we shouldn't worry about what other people think, but, you know, we all wear hats. We all have roles that we play, whether it be in our, you know, at our jobs or our churches or in our families. And it helps to just have that person where you can just take it all off and, you know, say, hey, this is really what it is. Like, I'm struggling. I need help.
Yeah. And I think this is really an important time to just share. If you have insurance, you may not even know, but it may cover, especially with your job, cover counseling. I didn't know with my job, not only does it cover counseling, but they have a system that they're like, if you need to talk to someone and something's going on, we have a system in place. So if you have insurance with your job or just insurance period, look into that. And if you don't have coverage, if you feel like, okay, I would love to take care of my mental health, but how do I do that? I don't have the finances. There are resources. So reach out to your local health department, reach out to us, and we will try to help you to find the resources that you need, because we want you to be whole and healthy, not just physically, but mentally as well. So definitely it is important, and we're here to walk you through it. I know that it takes time, but take that leap of faith to get what you need to be whole mentally. I think that is so important. I love that, and I think that maybe if your Aunt KK didn't show that, maybe you wouldn't have even been as brave enough to, because it takes bravery to receive counseling.
It does.
It does. And you shared about your boys. You have 2 boys.
Yes.
Those are my nephews. And you're married.
Yes.
You have a husband. And those relationships, and outside of not just your relationship with your husband and your children, but just your loved ones in general, a lot of times abuse can shape the way we see love, the way we may, you know, interact in our relationships with the ones that we love.
Yeah.
Can you, and I know that you shared a little bit about that, can you just share with us how that has shaped your way of love, and where have you gotten to this point in your relationships?
Yeah, I would definitely say I had to learn balance. I love really hard, and I think because of, you know, some of the uncertainty in my life and in the state of some of those, you know, like fundamental and foundational relationships, I hold on to people really, really tightly, or I used to. I used to. But I had to learn balance with those that I love. You know, I had to learn that, you know, I don't have to be a part of everything, because I struggled with rejection for so long that, you know, I would take it personally, you know, if, you know, I wasn't a part of the conversation, or, you know, if I wasn't invited to an event. Because in my mind, like, family is like tight. And not because I necessarily had that example of family, but that's, I guess, my dream, you know, of what family is, or what family should be. So I had to learn balance. And then I also had to learn that that just because I'm not having a good day with my family member, that doesn't mean they're gonna throw me away.
Yeah.
You know, I had to learn that, you know, just because things may not be the best right now, it doesn't mean it's the end of the relationship. You know, it's just a moment. And then to learn to stop working for love. I didn't even realize I did it, honestly. Like I said, I love big now, mind you. I spoil those that I love because that's my love language. I love to spoil those that I love. That's not working for love. But I used to feel like I had to be everything that other people wanted me to be. That's what I mean by working for love. You know, I felt like I had to be this little perfect image in this little perfect box, and then like everything would be perfect. And unfortunately, you know, not unfortunately, because God has blessed me with, you know, He's filled those voids with people that can love me the way that I need to be loved and give me what I need and support me. But I had to learn that it may not come from other people. I had to learn that the love that I need comes from God and God alone, and what He says that I am, that is what I am, and not need so much validation from other people. You know, I'm still learning it in some areas.
Yeah,
so, you know, I know it's a learning journey, you know, for all of us. But, yeah, those things for me, it definitely had learned along the way.
And so now you're at a place where you're getting close to your mid-30s. I'm a baby sister, so I'm messing with my sisters. I'm like, y'all getting old.
I'm still young.
But now that you've got to this point and have grown and have learned the things that you know now, what would you say to your younger self?
Whew, younger self. Sasha, don't be so angry.
Wow.
Yeah. What happened to you, you didn't deserve. But that is not the measurement of your worth. So don't measure your worth by the way that people treat you.
That's good. That's good
what I would
advice.
tell me.
That's good advice. I think that's good advice to listen to. You know, for you all in the audience to be able to hear that. Yeah, wow. You got me on that one. I think we've done pretty good. We
made it this far.
We had crybabies, and then put us together, it gets worse. So I think that we did pretty well. And I want to say, I think that sometimes when we go through trauma, we've grown up in certain areas. You know, I know that sometimes we can feel, even in certain cultures, that we're held back a little bit. But you are a witness that even with all of the trauma that has happened in your life, even maybe coming from, you know, you weren't a rich girl growing up. You know, like you said, I came from the hood. I had to figure this thing out on my own. But it is possible if, first, I know I keep saying it, keeping Christ at the center of your life, and pushing through, setting goals, but not only setting goals, because I had to teach myself that stop setting goals and saying this is what I'm going to do, but not even setting the little small steps of how I'm going to get to that point. But set those goals, and then how am I going to get to that point? What's my short-term goal? What's my long-term goal? You can do it. You can go to school. You can have your own business.
Yes, you can.
You can get that job that you want. You can work in that career that you want. You just have to believe it, pray about it, and when the door opens, walk through it. Because sometimes fear will get in the way, but walk through it. And I wanted to say, I'm so proud of you. She had her heart. She's really big on health and wellness.
Yes.
We are total opposites, but she's bringing some balance in my life. I'm getting there. I'm like, I drink water. She said, you had your one bottle of water for the day. Look, baby, I used to not drink water at all. So, but she has her own business. I'm so proud of her. She set her heart to it, and she's been working harder. And I even got to have an opportunity to work with her.
Yes.
So I wanted her to share a little bit about her business, because I am proud, and I want you to see. She shares that I have gone through abuse. I have gone through this amount of trauma, but I'm getting counseling. I'm building my relationship with Christ, and if you set your heart to do what you want to do, you can do it. So you're looking at success. So I want you to share about your business.
So my business is Begin Living Wellness Company. I am a firm believer that every day you get a new beginning. Every day is a new day to begin living, and that's why I named it what I named it. In our communities, a lot of times it's either we lack the knowledge or we lack the resources to be able to live a holistic life. And ultimately, holistic living is basically the best way that you could live. And it doesn't always necessarily mean, vegan food all the time. It doesn't mean that you can't eat meat. It just means that you're doing your best to make sure you know what's going into your body or even what you're putting on your body. So, we have a wide range of skincare, body care, hair care products that are all natural. We don't put any added chemicals or additives in it because a lot of times those things are what cause those extra things like cancers. If you look at our cancer rates 50 years ago compared to now, they're much higher, and a lot of that has to do with what we ingest and what we put on our bodies. That's why I developed the company. We have body scrubs, body butters, lotions, soaps, the whole nine, shampoo, conditioner. You can find us online at beginlivingtoday.net. We look forward to hearing from you.
And something pretty cool is actually when she was building her facial product and with the sea moss and everything like that, she actually used me as, I call it a guinea pig.
She let me use it. She did.
Yes, and we are going to share some before and after. I mean, I know you can kind of see the after, but I think it would be great for you to see me without, a beat face, as they like to say.
It is beat, girl.
but I actually really suffered with acne, really bad. It was pretty bad. And then she started the process of with her facial stuff, and I still use it. It's a part of my regular routine, and it's something that it does to you inside when you see your skin clearing up. Yeah. I always, want women to not be insecure because they may have acne or they may have, what different things are with their face or with their body. But the truth is that we still do become insecure, nervous. If somebody looks at your face too long, you think they're looking at your acne. And so, I would say that Begin Living has made a tremendous impact in my life. Aww. And now we're even working to even clear out the black spots now, but we've come a long way. So I'm super grateful. And what I do, I tell you, even if you're not into natural things, maybe you have your own facial routine, or maybe you already have your own hair routine, or whatever the case may be. But I tell you, one product you can use no matter what is the Revitalized Foot and Body Scrub. Yes. Let me tell you, this is it. This is life. And so actually, she made a sample version just for the CamPaige Experience because she loves me just that much. I mean, she loves all of us just that much. And we want to support, but what we're going to do is we have 10 of these that we are giving away for free. So the first 10 to share this video, and you have to put in the comments done. The first 10, we're going to mail this to you. We'll send you a private message so that we can mail this to you, and it's yours. And I'm telling you, when you try it, you put it on your feet, you can put it in the in the tub. And if you have that foot thing where
foot spa.
I'm telling you, it does something extra special. It makes your feet feel all fluffy, and then you're gonna love it. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna go on the website and you're gonna buy the bigger one, and then check out all the other stuff. But that's our giveaway. So definitely share this, and then don't forget to write done, and it's yours. First 10, it's yours. So this is for you. Sasha, thank you so much, Jah'Sosha.
Thank you for having me.
I call her Sasha, but now I call her Jah'Sosha. And then she calls me Tamara instead of Tam, and I'm like, okay, just let it go. But I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story. You are so brave, you are so strong, and I'm so proud of you. I love you so much.
I love you too.
Thank you so much for joining us. I pray that this episode has impacted your life the way it has impacted mine. I pray that you are encouraged and that you take something from this. Share this with your loved one. Maybe you know someone that has dealt with abuse and that they can gain something from this. Share this with someone that you love because we want to see you whole, mentally, physically, everything, spiritually. Yeah. So thank you for sharing. Remember, this is real women, real stories, real power. Thank you.